This video is brought to you by IXL, used by millions of students worldwide to get ahead in math, English, and more.
Today, we'll read an animal fantasy story. That means it will be about animals who talk or do things that humans normally do. That's something that can't happen in real life, which is why we call it fantasy. As we read, we'll pause along the way to make sure we're understanding the story. Ready? Let's go! Read along with me. No nap for Ben. Ben the bear loved to nap. He napped under the trees. He napped in soft grass. He napped in the warm sun. Once he even napped in a pile of leaves. One day, Ben found the perfect spot under a big pine tree. It was soft, shady, and just right for a long nap. Okay, let's pause here. The story tells us that Ben found a perfect spot for a nap under a big pine tree. I'm not sure what a pine tree looks like. Oh, but the picture can help. It shows that a pine tree is tall and green. And I see some pine cones. Great! Now I can imagine the story even better in my head. Now, let's think about this question. Why was the spot Ben found perfect for a nap? Let's look in the story to find the answer. Check out this detail. It says, it was soft, shady, and just right for a long nap. So, the spot was perfect because it was soft and shady. That does sound like a nice, cozy place for Ben to take a nap. Great work! Let's keep going with the story. Ben lay down and closed his eyes. Thump! A pine cone landed on his head. Ben sat up. Steve the squirrel was in the tree above. He was dropping pine cones to the ground. Oops! Sorry, Ben, said Steve. I was gathering pine cones for winter. Ben tried again to fall asleep, but then, thump! Another pine cone! Oh my! Why can't Ben nap? Do you see any details in the story to help us answer this question? Oh, look here and here. These details show us that Ben can't nap because Steve is dropping pine cones on his head. Every time Ben tries to fall asleep, a pine cone falls and wakes him up. Poor Ben! I wonder what will happen next. Let's keep reading to find out. Steve, I can't nap if you keep dropping pine cones on me, said Ben. Steve frowned. But I need lots of pine cones. This tree has the most. Ben thought and said, maybe I can help. All right, let's pause here. Why does Steve want to gather pine cones from Ben's tree? Well, look here. Steve says that he needs lots of pine cones. Then he says that Ben's tree has the most. So, it seems like Steve wants to gather pine cones from Ben's tree, not any of the other trees, because Ben's tree has the most pine cones. That makes sense. Okay, I notice here that Ben says, maybe I can help. So it sounds like Ben has an idea of how to help Steve. Let's see what happens. Ben stood up on his huge bare paws and gave the tree a great big shake. Shake, shake, shake. Pine cones rained down all at once. Steve cheered. Wow, now I have all the pine cones I need. Great, said Ben with a big yawn. Now I can nap. Steve gathered his pine cones, and Ben curled up under the tree. This time, there were no more thumps. Ben had a perfect, quiet nap. Oh, great! So how does Ben solve the problem of the pine cones? Let's look back at what happens in this part of the story. Ben gives the tree a big shake. That causes a bunch of pine cones to fall down. Then Steve cheers and says, "Now I have all the pine cones I need." So, to solve the problem, Ben shakes the tree to get Steve lots of pine cones at once. And now, Ben can sleep peacefully with no more pine cones thumping him on the head. That was some smart thinking from Ben. Shaking the tree was a clever way to help his friend and get his cozy nap. Great job reading with me! Animal fantasy stories let us imagine a world where animals talk, play, or solve problems, just like Ben and Steve. Try finding another story like this to read on your own.
Head over to IXL.com for more practice on this skill and thousands more videos in math and language arts.